It is yet another Victory Monday. Welcome to the show. This is a football show, and we are live, of course, on every Victory Monday, right here from the pharmacy in East Nashville on McFerrin Avenue. What a gorgeous, freaking spectacular day to be out having a burger with your friends. Zach, he's Zach. I'm Braden. Look at this crowd back here. Look at all these people. It is slammed because people are enjoying 76 degrees and a Titans victory, my man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I thought we'll talk about it, but I thought yesterday was a fantastic win and probably one of the most, to me, most earned and best wins of Mike Vrabel's tenure, and he would actually agree with me, and I thought this yesterday.
Wow. Okay. So you knew what Mike Vrabel was going to say at the press conference today.
Well, I also called that it was the Andrew Adams game, and nobody, and now everybody's using it.
No one was crediting you all throughout the game.
Oh, and everybody, and I heard Buck say it today. I heard, saw that the morning crew on 104.5, they put it in their thing, and I'm thinking I should have trademarked this. Yeah. At least give me some credit. I mean, especially because these people know me.
You tweeted it was the Andrew Adams game.
Where were you?
Before anyone else.
Yeah,
before anyone else, I will vouch for you on this. You did it. And welcome, of course, to the pharmacy. Again, look at all these beautiful people back here. They're just beautiful people everywhere here at the pharmacy. So if you want to come hang out every single Monday, or for that matter, all the other days of the week, the pharmacy has a great burger for you. We got the burger and the tots right here. Look, the beers are jumping off the table. That's how rowdy it is here at the pharmacy, which, of course, is a Bearded Iris Pills here for the pharmacy. It's a pharmacy pills, so locally sourced beer here at the pharmacy. You can only get that right here in the beautiful beer garden and burger parlor. They got the soda rail for the kids as well, so lots of fun stuff for you guys here at the pharmacy. So come on out, man. We got the show on Mondays, and that's 5 straight Victory Mondays here on the program. So we're going to get into the Titans win. You just said it could be one of the best of Mike Vrabel's tenure, certainly the best of the season. Why is that? We'll get to that. Ryan Tannehill injury update. What does that mean moving forward for the team? Is the offense going to be watchable at any point during the course of the rest of the season? We'll get into that.
Sure is fucking ugly.
No more analysis needed than on that. And, of course, obviously some SEC football, so we'll get into that as Tennessee, Kentucky, of course, coming up this weekend. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about in the SEC as well. Let's also remind our folks out there who are listening to do what to the notifications and all those good things. What should people do?
Turn them all on. We want you to come and listen to the podcast version of this as well. So what you need to do, here's your plan. Here's your daily schedule. Mondays, tune in live. Tuesday mornings, listen to this show. Tuesday afternoons, so you're listening to us twice. Tuesday afternoons, you listen to Music City Audible. Wednesday mornings, you listen to Football and Other F Words, and you can listen to that 3 times all day, every day. You can also, on Thursday, you watch this show, you listen to Music City Audible, and then on Friday, you listen to this show again. So you need to be listening / watching to us twice, because I think it's very important, because it's like when you go back and will rewatch a show that you hadn't seen in a while, and you're like, oh, I missed that. Yeah. Oh, I missed that little clue in the background. That's what happens if you listen to this show twice. You pick up on new nuggets.
That's true. And practice reports come out and new information comes to light. So we have to evolve as the week goes along. And if you love college football, make sure you're checking out Fringe Element every Wednesday. We got all the picks against the spread on Friday. So basically wall-to-wall football from Broadway Sports Media and 440 Sports, college and pro, everything you need. Every single day there is something good and fresh and new for you if you're watching, listening, viewing, consuming.
But the only way you know, you got to turn on notifications. YouTube channels, Facebook. 440 Sports, Broadway Sports Media, Twitters at FWordsPod, at Braden Gall. Got to turn on the notifications, people.
Now, is asking people to listen to the same podcast 3 times sort of like your daddy buying your book to move it up the bestseller list?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
That's okay. You're okay with that?
I'm okay with like a few thousand people who's showing some nepotism our way.
Yes. Download and listen to the show 4 times per week.
Yes.
We do appreciate it.
I'll create a daily schedule for everybody, and I'll share it. And we'll tell you what to watch and what to listen to and when to do it.
So lots of good, bad, and questionable for the Titans moving forward for a lot of different reasons. However, Weiss Liquors, Kingston Group, 2 other amazing sponsors here on the show. You guys know the drill on the Kingston Group. If you're going to make a decision about your house that's big and expensive and complicated and difficult, sort of like what happens to Todd Downing when he game plans. If you would like to have a conversation with some experts, talk to the Kingston Group. BuildKG.com.
I went and looked at a house today for potential listing because I am a real estate agent, ZachLyonsSells.com.
More promotion.
And you can email me at ZachLyons@KW.com. I'm with Keller Williams, by the way. But I was at a house
Shameless.
today, and it was a very dated house in Columbia that had been built in 2000, and it looked like it stayed in 2000. I was walking, I was going, if I was someone, I'd be calling the Kingston Group to come in and remodel this because this is in desperate need of some updates.
The Kingston Group, BuildKG.com, Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm, and of course, Weiss Liquors. I hope you celebrated after the game last night, and also maybe needed some booze to like forget about the offense. Weiss Liquors, Uber Eats, search Weiss Liquors. The booze will show up to your house in as quickly as 20 minutes. Zach?
Well, that's because they drive, so you can drink.
Bingo. Support locally owned business, folks.
Yep.
Broadway Sports Media, 440 Sports, but a pharmacy, Weiss Liquors, Kingston Group. We are all sponsored and made possible for you by people who live and operate their businesses in Nashville.
By the people, for the people.
By the people, for the people. By Nashville, of Nashville, for Nashville. So go support all the local businesses that support this show, Weiss Liquors, Kingston Group, and, of course, the pharmacy. So this is a Victory Monday. It is 5 straight Victory Mondays. It wasn't the prettiest. We'll get to what that means for the future. But you think this is one of the most impressive victories of the Mike Vrabel era, including especially this season. Explain to me why you think that.
Hands down this season. Okay, so, but it's in the argument for, because you got the playoff wins and those are exciting, but you want to talk about impressive, talk about a team that knows that you're going to be running it with Derrick Henry and you still find success on the ground. A team that isn't afraid of any of your offensive weapons outside of Derrick Henry, and you still found Austin Hooper in critical situations, which hasn't been the norm. And then on top of that, the injuries that happened to Ryan Tannehill and Ben Jones, and you saw the emotion from Ben Jones as he exits the game, and he almost essentially collapses in Mike Vrabel's arms. Like if that had been like Nick Sirianni or Brandon Staley, that guy would be crushed by Ben Jones. Luckily, it's Mike Vrabel.
Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, Mike McDaniel. That would be
little guy.
Mike McDaniel would be like, oh crap, but he would have a hilarious take on it
would.
at the press conference because he's got the best press conferences.
He's a wicked smart dude.
But you got all that, and then you got the defense in the trenches just dominating an overpaid offensive line. You wouldn't believe how many Colts fans were under Zach Kiefer's and Stephen Holder's tweets where they referenced Danico Autry and how they wish they would have paid Danico Autry $10 million and not paid Quentin Nelson at all. like these guys don't even want Quentin Nelson on their team anymore. That's how pretty much the Titans are enders. You know how they ended the Patriots dynasty?
Yeah, Tom
They
Brady's
have now
career.
ended.
Now he won a Super Bowl, I guess.
Yeah, well, but that's why I say the Patriots dynasty.
Yeah, that's good.
But now they have ended essentially any talk or promotions about Colts teams for at least 3 more years by the national media. Nobody's going to buy into this Colts team anymore.
And Frank Reich has announced this morning that Matt Ryan will no longer be starting for the time being. Zach Kiefer did report that it's a shoulder, but also he's being benched because he's not been very good. So there's a combination of all those things. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is Sam Ehlinger is going to be the Colts starting quarterback next week against Washington.
Cross them off the list. Colts are dead.
And let's just be honest about the state of quarterback play in this league this year. Just injuries everywhere. Obviously, we'll get to Ryan Tannehill and what that means for the team, for the Titans moving forward. But I agree. I think, and Vrabel was clearly very proud of how his team played in the press conference on Monday.
I was proud.
But yeah,
I know that doesn't matter to anybody.
No,
but like to me, coming from a guy who's hated on almost every win that they've had, and listen,
that's true.
I'm going to hate on this win too, and certain points, mainly due with the offense. They found a way to get it done with Cody Hollister as one of their leading receiver for most of the game. I think he may have still Austin Hooper actually ended up the leading receiver, but for most of the game, it was Cody Hollister.
Good to see that Austin Hooper still plays football, by the way. 3 catches, 56 yards.
And he didn't fall down. He actually stood up.
Had some yak.
Yeah.
Had some yak on his first catch there. So I think Jeffrey Simmons, Ben Jones, Ryan Tannehill, you probably could not, I mean, other than like maybe Kevin Byard, Derrick Henry, there's a couple other names, obviously, but those are 3 of the most important players. And for them to go out of the game, deal with injury, and we see this with Ben Jones sort of every game, he's going to end up sitting on the ground at some point, and then he's going to come off. Yeah. And he is one of the toughest dudes you'll ever talk to. I did a show with him like years ago in his first year here. Hilarious guy. I'm just going to say, like, this has nothing to do with the game. He is going to have a miserable life when he's like 55 years old. Like his body, the toughness level, the things he puts himself through.
He has to go through that Joe Thomas transformation at the end because, like, I don't know, for those who may not know, The Rock has a competition show where it's like these strong athletic people doing the most insane stuff. Joe Thomas did it shortly after retired from the league, and he is ripped.
Like, trimmed a bunch of weight off.
This dude, he's jacked. Yeah. And Ben Jones is going to have to do that. He can't go to immediately do, just hunting as his only activity, physical activity, and drinking beer.
He's also not like 6'5", like some of those other guys are. He's a shorter offensive lineman. Point is, like, he gives everything for his team. It will cost him later in life, but it's what allows him to come back from all these injuries all the time. Jeffrey Simmons, talk about grind. You're looking at grind right now. That's his Twitter account. He comes back in the game. Tannehill hurts the ankle and comes back into the game. And even though it almost led to the turnover that might have cost him, just a toughness factor in this one where the offense was atrocious. And again, we'll get to that. I think because of the situation, the division, the Colts, 2-0 sweeping them, how tough the game was, how well the defense played. I think the guys that stepped up needed to step up. And I think that's why Vrabel exuded so much sort of pride for the way his team played and why you probably feel the way you do.
Yeah. I just look at it and I think Titans fans by and large love Ben Jones. But I don't think they really realize the gravity of what Ben Jones brings to the locker room, the steady presence that he's had on the offensive line in general. But that dude is like the heart. Like, yeah. I think that's a lot of people don't understand it. And if you look at the locker room dynamic, I just think how much this team cares about Ben Jones and specifically the staff and how much they respect him. And when he's gone and retired, that's going to be a hard void to fill. And right now, that offensive lineman is not on this team that could fill that void at all. No. Not only just from a talent perspective, but also from a leadership perspective. That is going to have to be, to me, is one of the best John Robinson's signings that we never really talk about.
I think
because he was John Robinson, right?
Yeah. Jones was one of the first wave guys where like they went and got like Rashard Matthews and Rashad Johnson, the safety, right? No, it was his first offseason. He went and got Jones and Johnson and Matthews, and they brought in all these guys to sort of start the rebuild of the roster. And I think to your point about Ben Jones's leadership, I think the offensive line right now is being held together by duct tape and rookies and like less than pieces. Ben Jones is the reason it is finding any success. If there's ever a moment where you go, that was a nice play by the offensive line, it's because Ben Jones makes the calls. Ben Jones is the leadership. He's the heart and soul. He's also the funniest dude probably on the team. Everyone thinks it's Lawan probably, but it's absolutely Ben Jones. And so I think if you lose him for any period of time, I think the offensive line caves in around him. And I think that's how, to your point, the sacrifices he's made for his team, the injuries he's dealt with, but how important he is to the team. I think that's why you see the
only
collapse
missed one game
afterwards.
in his entire career. Only missed one start.
Incredible toughness there. So I do think the defense is
with the Titans, I should say.
Yeah. The defense I think is worth having a conversation about because clearly Bud Dupree being back helped. He was influential.
7 pressures
for
the most overpaid loser apparently in Titans history.
I was going to set you up for that, but you don't need it. You can just tell people how wrong they are about Bud Dupree being extremely valuable. He was influential on the interceptions. He was influential, as you said, constantly, but also it gave them the freedom. Also the matchup against the Colts because they can't go down the field. But Andrew Adams, high point safety, rolling on Monty Hooker, who's back into the lineup, into the slot. They had him matched up man-to-man with guys like Paris Campbell from time to time, who are not normally a matchup for a safety and man coverage. So they were able to do so much more stuff on defense, and it worked. They were largely dominant. That was that might have been their best showing as a defense all season as well.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with you just because it was the Andrew Adams game. I mean, like I said, I knew the Patriots game when they played at home. I think it was Mike Vrabel's first year, and Kenny Vaccaro had just got signed, and he goes in and he makes a tackle right off the bat, and you just knew that this team was going to win that game, and this defense was going to be the reason why, and that pretty much came to fruition in that game.
Was that the Derrick Henry game where after he gets benched and then afterward he looks in the mirror, has the conversation with Eddie George, or is that a year later? Maybe 2 years later.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, that has nothing to do with Kenny Vaccaro. Why are we even
I'm just trying to remember
that?
the game that also was a signature moment for Derrick Henry.
It was just the home Patriots game, and Kenny Vaccaro made that tackle, and the defense went wild at home. And it was just, to me, that was the moment that you knew the first off Kenny Vaccaro was really going to be an underrated signing, and he ended up being an underrated signing. But you knew that the team was going to win. And when Andrew Adams made those first few plays, and I tweeted immediately saying, where were you when the Andrew Adams game happened? I just knew it. I could feel it. Now, was as confident that the Titans, only being up 13 heading into the half, or only having scored 13 points, that they were going to win? Probably not, because, you got to be realistic sometimes that this team has struggled in the second half. However, I knew it wasn't going to be because of any defensive letdowns that they were going to lose. And I think that's important because you got Amani Hooker, who allowed eight catches on 8 targets, and he's playing out of position. But obviously,
shows his versatility, if nothing else.
No, it shows how. Let me tell you one thing. It shows, and this is the most important thing that nobody's talking about. They'll do anything to keep Caleb Farley off the field at this point. They will move a safety to the slot that hasn't played the cornerback slot position since college, just to keep Caleb Farley off the field, and it's the right call.
And Mitchell got into the game before Caleb Farley.
Farley only
Mitchell
played special teams.
And Mitchell made a big play at the end of the game, of course, to force the fumble.
It was very, very lucky that he did, because he had played awful until then, letting big play after big play after big play.
So playing awful, giving up big plays, still better
than Caleb Farley.
Caleb Farley. Stoney on the YouTube comments. Again, if you want to get in and ask questions, please do so. We are here live at the pharmacy. Look at all these beautiful people enjoying this beautiful weather. We are also brought to you, of course, by Kingston Group and Weiss Liquor. Support local businesses, folks. Stoney asking, where is the Lizzo shirt? You were full 80s. You looked full 80s.
Yeah, it just happened to work out that way. Because I wore that shirt, and then, of course, I got the Lizzo shirt at the concert itself.
Good show?
Lizzo, great show. Okay. Great show. And Lotto was really good as well. And fantastic time. And I will say this, the shirt will make an appearance on the video shows.
Ooh, okay.
It's just that I did not have time to do laundry last night and this morning.
And it was a little sweaty last night after all that gyrations.
Yes.
All the gyrations that happened. All right, so do you want to get into Tannehill here before we talk about how concerned we are about the offense?
We talked about the injuries, and, to me, it's like Ryan Tannehill's playing.
Why do you say that?
Why would he not play versus the Texans? So it's a divisional game, and the Texans are a threat because they have beaten the Titans before, but they are a threat. They do play teams really, really close down to the wire. They are a well-coached team that has fight to them. Now, the win-loss record doesn't match the effort, but that's okay. That's still a dangerous game.
They are clearly better this year than they were last year.
Yeah, and Ryan Tannehill, obviously, people are saying today that he feels good, but we'll see where he's at on Wednesday. He's going to play. He's just that kind of player that he's not going to, bail on his team just because he's got a little twisted ankle.
So a couple of things here. In the walking boot, of course, if you didn't notice that, leaving the building, that also could be totally precautionary. There was some subtle allusions to the fact that he's not going to practice a whole lot this week, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Malik Willis wasn't.
Ben Jones probably will not practice a lot this week.
It's par for the course for Ben normally. You get Malik Willis into a couple of snaps yesterday for kind of the first real time as a separate package, separate player, not just the end of the Bills game. So you start to kind of put it all together, and is it a high ankle sprain? Is it more serious than we think? I tend to agree with you that he's going to go. The question is, and we were talking about this before the show, I don't know why, with an offensive line that is as porous as this one has been, why they are not using, because the reason you would go to Willis for just a couple of plays for whatever reason is if you've got a statue quarterback back there to sort of create something to think about for the defensive line. Well, you don't need to do that because Tannehill can do it, and they had one design run yesterday, and it worked pretty well. So two-part question. Why haven't they been running him more on design plays to help slow down the pass rush? And two, what happens if he doesn't have that part of his game and he's just standing in the pocket as a statue? Because part of the play action that's so good with this team is his ability to get back through the play action fake and then settle and throw.
Well, I'll talk about the second part first, about Ryan Tannehill maybe being limited. Here's the thing about Ryan Tannehill that nobody really ever gives him credit for. They say that his leadership sucks, right? The general consensus is that his leadership sucks. By the fans.
I was going to say.
By the fans. That is general consensus. Let me say something. The media, you guys are like this much. The fans are this much. So general consensus would be the majority, and the majority, and including some of your media members, by the way.
Titans Twitter is this much of the Titans fan. Just so we know. Let
me say something. Listen to who calls in the radio. Those are the well-represented demographics of the Titans fan. I
have questions about people who call in the radio shows,
but
just me.
I will say this: a lot of people question his leadership. Ryan Tannehill's a tough motherfucker. He's going to go out there and he's going to play, and he's going to play like that ankle doesn't fucking bother him. Is he going to limp maybe to the huddle from the sideline huddle? Sure. When that ball snapped, it's gone. And that's just what Ryan Tannehill is. So I'm not too concerned that, listen, he's been playing behind that offensive line all year long. That's more of a hindrance than the ankle at this point in my mind. That's more of a concern than
so now he
ankle.
has 2 bad ankles.
Yeah, pretty much. The other thing is, to go back to why they're not calling design run plays with Ryan Tannehill in mind, is because they got a fucking moron as a offensive coordinator.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's not personal at all.
No. I mean, listen, I don't know Todd Downing at all, and I'm sure, the way that he presents himself, it talks about his personal life and the religious aspects of it. Super nice guy, I'm sure. But super nice people can be idiots.
Yes, well, yeah. There's lots of dumb, nice people in the world.
I think he's one of them.
I think to insult Todd Downing's intelligence is one thing. I'm not going to go there. To suggest that he is not doing his job up to the abilities that Mike Vrabel and Titans fans need him to, that's fair. That is clear, because we talked about it last week. They did a lot of self-scouting, and Vrabel was clearly not happy with what he saw. Todd Downing was supposed to be fine-tuning the playbook and the game plan. And I'm not sure what difference we saw, because that was their worst offensive output of the season. Mm-hmm. They didn't score on the opening drive. They weren't, again, I know the offensive, there's some limitations here.
You can design and call plays with the offensive line in mind.
I tend to agree. You make me want to drink more.
Well, my thing is that
I just don't like calling people fucking morons.
That's all right. That's what I'm here for. Listen, people today were talking about, the play and everything. And I'm like, well, I can't wait to see the next iteration of the jet sweep, but Caleb Farley this time, because that's what's going to happen, right? Like, what in the world? I am listen, this offense is not built to be a trickery kind of offense. Like, your bread and butter is your play action passing, your pre-snap motion, and handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. It is not these crazy jet sweeps that have never worked. I can't think of one that has worked, even when A.J. Brown was the one taking them. He would get stopped in the backfield.
Jonnu Smith did pretty well.
Yeah,
but that was Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of difference there.
Yeah.
But again, Malik Will. This play just makes me so mad for a lot of reasons, because people want to put the blame on Ryan Tannehill. They want to absolve Malik Willis of everything, because there's that subsection of people that think Malik Willis does no wrong and Ryan Tannehill does all the wrong. Here's the issue. 1, play should have never been designed. 2, play should have never been practiced. 3, it obviously wasn't practiced. 4, it never should have been called in a game. 5, the offensive line sucked. It wasn't going to work anyway if Malik Willis held on to the ball. 6, you have a guy with a bum ankle trying to go out there and make this weird handoff, and he was obviously not doing it. And 7, you have Malik Willis, who obviously has never taken a handoff in his life,
not like that,
his high school career or anything, and he totally botched it. And 8, and the final reason, you have running backs and wide receivers you could use in this situation. Why wouldn't they use Dontrell Hilliard? Why wouldn't they have called up at some point Reggie Roberson, who has speed, who could probably run that play quicker than anybody?
Do you want to take a break, and I'll talk about our sponsors for a second, and then answer your question?
Yeah.
We're here at the pharmacy. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous outside. They've got amazing food. There's no reason not to come to the pharmacy. So come check out the pharmacy. Zach's going to take a couple sips of his beer and take a deep breath here.
Still one of your tater tots.
Eat the tots, man. Go to town. The tots are delicious. They got the wursts. They got the burgers. They got the beer, the garden back here with all these beautiful and amazing people. Make sure you come by and hang out at the pharmacy. BuildKG.com, the Kingston Group. Make sure you check them out as well before you make any big decisions about your house. And Weiss Liquors, Uber Eats, Weiss Liquors.
They drive so you can drink.
There you go. The booze will show up at your house in as quickly as 20 minutes if you just search Weiss Liquors on Uber Eats. I think the key is like everything about this play to me is it's like the smell of a good play. Like, you can smell, there's like a waft. Like, okay, I like the fact that they had Malik Willis in the game a couple of times early to put it on film. I like the fact that they had Dontrell Hilliard and Derrick Henry in the game together and then motioned Hilliard, didn't use him either time, put it on film. Like, all of it seems like it could have the makings of a good, like a nice smell of a good play. And then when you get down to the decision-making, the timing, the design, and the execution of why it's all happening when it's happening, and you're going, all right, you're going to ask your quarterback who just hurt his ankle to have to push off. You're going to ask a backup quarterback who clearly has never run this play to run a play he's never run before. You've already put on film Hilliard, going in motion with Henry in the backfield. So you could do that again, and maybe has the defense slowing down a beat because they're watching for Hilliard to go in motion, who is very comfortable taking handoffs in that situation. It's just an example of, like, I think the idea is right, and then nothing else works after that. You just did everything wrong after that,
I think
including timing.
Here's my thing on this jet sweep thing, is that first off, this defense by the Indianapolis Colts have been playing pretty well, sniffing out the runs in the middle of the offensive line. So when you're tossing this ball or handing off this ball to Malik Willis, you're handing it right where right where they're going to be going anyway, right? So to me, why not fake it to Henry, then toss it to Willis, who's coming behind Henry? If you have this fucking desire to use Willis in this way, which is idiotic, by the way, and why not do that kind of a jet sweep? Like, I don't understand why they saw what they did with Chig and decided, well, we're going to get a guy who has never taken a handoff, apparently, and we're going to put him in the Chig role. And we know it didn't work against the New York Giants, but heck, it may just work against the Indianapolis Colts with a worse offensive line and a worse player.
And the same thing happened where the tackle and guard got pushed off the ball and blown up, and the guy was right in the way of the play. Again, like, there's this idea and a concept and a blueprint. Maybe the Kingston group could help out with this. There's like a blueprint of a smart play. And then it's like, it's not finished correctly. It's not timed correctly. It's not the right personnel isn't used.
I was about to say, the Kingston group, when they design a blueprint of something, they use quality ingredients and quality products.
And the right people to execute the right parts of it.
But here, the Tennessee Titans just shit all over it. They say this blueprint, they take a pile of shit and they just smear it all over it. Because that's what the Titans love to do, specifically Todd Downing.
Okay. Well, we were going to talk about the offense, and now I have this visual in my head of Zach in the driveway with his own fecal matter now.
That's Todd. I don't get to design the plays.
That's true. So the offense here, moving forward, the question about sustainability, this really isn't a new question for this team. It's the same exact question we've asked. Now, if I'm going to spin this positively for Titans fans, because they have won 4 straight games, and if you listen to the show up to date, you might not think that this team has won 4 straight games. They're also a missed field goal away from 5-1. They're also not very good on offense. So the way I would spin this, if I'm a Titans fan and I'm sitting at a bar, maybe at the pharmacy, having a beer with my friends, I'm saying, look, the defense is great. I trust Vrabel and the defensive coaching staff. There's some pieces on the offense that I trust: Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Ben Jones, whatever. If we can just get to 5-5, if we can just get to 6-5, if we can just be 5-4, whatever the number is, and then hope and pray that something evolves on offense, whether it's young players developing, whether them just not being awful on the offensive line and they're just bad. I don't know. But to me, that's the hope, is that you are so good on defense that you just give your offense time to work through a couple things, and then maybe they're just like 21st in the NFL and not 32nd. And then all of a sudden, maybe you can be dangerous down the stretch in December and into the playoffs.
The problem is that you're going to tire out your defense, I think, before that ever happens, and that's not a good thing. You have to start sustaining longer drives. You have to start sustaining successful drives as well, because there's nothing more demoralizing than continually, as a defender, having to go out there after 3 plays and then you're back out on the field. And
it's the entire third quarter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in the first quarter, it perfectly encapsulates what I feel like a Titans drive, a classic Todd Downing Titans drive is like, is the 1st and 10. They get the people to jump off sides, get the defense jump off sides, 1st and 5. Then they do a failed run, so it's 2nd and 6. And then they do, I can't remember what the third play was, but then it's 3rd and 9. And then on the 3rd and 9, he gets sacked. And then it's 4th and 16 and they're punting. And that is 1 step forward and 20 steps backwards for the Tennessee Titans. And that, to me, is a very classic Todd Downing kind of offense that we're used to seeing. When it's like, I've talked about it last year and I've said it before heading into this year, they do not change anything about how they approach a game without their best pieces. When AJ Brown was out, they treated Nick Westbrook-Akine and Cody Hollister like they were AJ Brown. Right. And that's not the best way to coach and to have success that sustains into the postseason.
All right, so give me some answers then. short of Traylon Burks coming back and being a fully healthy.
Oh shit, that was one of them.
Okay. All right. Okay, Zach, what are some answers for the Titans offense?
Well, Traylon Burks getting healthy and coming back. I think you got to use Chick more, but we say that every week, and then they use Chick one week, and then you don't use Chick this week. But I will say
he had the most snaps he's had as a pro, so he was in there a lot early on.
He was in there as a fullback, and he was a better fullback than Torrey Carter is. So, notch one for Chick in that category right there.
More reasons for more Chick.
Yeah, I think you got to have Chick on the field almost all the time, and have him swapping out with one of the other guys. Not necessarily even in 2 tight end sets. I feel like Chick has done enough in the blocking game to warrant being on 2 tight end sets, even on run play, especially when he's pancaking linebackers like they're nothing. I think it was EJ Speed he pancaked in one of the plays in the first quarter.
I think clearly he is earning their trust every week, which is a good thing for this offense.
They just got to get him. He had 1 target yesterday. Jeff Swaim had 1 target. There's not enough. I know there's not enough time to have targets, but hey, instead of using Jeff Swaim in the end zone to do that play and where he has to jump, maybe get the athletic guy.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to dive because he can get there a little bit quicker.
Yeah. That happened like right in front of me.
Yeah.
And like I was sitting next to like Buck, and it was just like it was slow motion.
Yeah.
He was running right at us and diving. We're like, this isn't going to work.
No.
And he just hits the ground, and we were like, oh, why is he the one running the out route? Like a speed out route.
I don't think there's a solution for left tackle unless you go and get Eric Fisher, which I still don't think is going to be that much better. But anything's better than what Dennis Daly's giving you. He's up to 20 pressures allowed in the games that he's played now. It's ridiculous. NPF had a better game. I think you got to lean on the run game, like we said, while you get some guys back healthy. But I think the biggest thing is to maybe pull out some new plays that you haven't used 50 times in the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's the same Sunday every day. I mean, so we're living in a groundhog scenario. I feel like I'm Bill fucking Murray over here.
There was one play on the first drive, and maybe you can correct, because I'm getting the 2 plays confused, where it's 2 tight ends split out, twins one side, 2 tight ends. They motion a guy back to the open side and then run the counter tray with Derek. And the first time, it was like a 9 or 10 or 11-yard gain. It worked really well. The very next drive, they did the exact same play, but just flipped it. And while I get sometimes in the flow of the game, that can be real sneaky and real smart and real savvy and real good to go back to it sooner than they expect, to put something on film and then go back to it when they think you're maybe trying to set something else up. So I get why maybe you think through that and see that. But then I'm like, no, they're not. They're just going to run with Derrick Henry. And they did, and it was like -1 yard or whatever. And so I feel like sometimes, again, they have the idea correct. It's just the timing or the execution of the wrong personnel, and it just doesn't hit. For whatever, it's just.
I know it's not going to happen, and I know it's beating a dead horse. Todd Downing needs to be fired, and I know it's not going to happen. But I'm telling you right now, I think if you want something fixed quickly and instantly, I think that is the best fix. And I still hold on to it. I know people are like, well, you don't really know what Tim Kelly's going to be, but I'm telling you right now, Tim Kelly's a better offensive coordinator than Todd Downing. He can coach circles around him. And I think that here's the thing. When your offensive line is bad, I know it seems counterintuitive to maybe go 5 wide, but that's less people in the box that are coming after. That's less free rushers or less rushers.
Quick throws, screens.
There's ways to call plays and design plays. And that I think Todd Downing's just in over his head. He can't design a play. Yeah. If he was trapped in a maze, and it was a 3-foot tall hedge maze, and he is obviously 6 foot something, maybe 5 foot something.
He's shorter than me, actually.
Yeah, so he's like 5 foot. He's probably my height,
he's
maybe.
Like 5'11".
So he's still taller than a 3-foot hedge maze. He would still have problems getting out of that hedge maze. He could not draw an exit strategy to save his life.
Oh man, I will say this: if it continues, and the reason this team misses the playoff, doesn't win the division, loses a playoff game, however the season ends, which we all feel like it's inevitable, that this is a good enough team to be in a playoff game, probably not score enough points in that game, right? If that is the inevitability of the end of the season, and they are the 27th best offense in the NFL, I don't think he's back next year.
When the Panthers,
I don't think
with an interim head coach and no Christian McCaffrey, go out and score 20 plus points on a Tampa Bay defense that's really, really good.
Yeah.
and you struggle with the Colts scoring points in the second half against the Colts, the Commanders, the Raiders, these other teams, and you're having trouble scoring points. The excuse lies to me. It's all at the feet of Todd Downing.
I tend to agree, and as you've said before, and as Chris says in our comments, basically Downing is an extension of Vrabel. That's Vrabel game planning. It's not Vrabel's game plan. It is Todd Downing designing and game planning. He is influenced by Vrabel, and every coordinator is always going to be influenced by the head coach.
Use Hilliard more with Henry on the field.
I love the fact that they came out on the first drive 2 times, had Hilliard and Henry in the back of the players that you could throw a pass to right now. The entire roster.
Yeah.
53 guys. Where's Dontrell Hilliard in the power rankings?
Probably 4th or 5th.
Right?
Yeah, and he was available with a couple of guys ahead of him that weren't getting open or B, weren't healthy.
Mason Kinsey was on the field.
Yeah, well.
Why not throw the ball to Dontrell Hilliard over Mason Kinsey?
Well, they didn't even throw the ball to Mason Kinsey.
He caught one pass, I thought.
Well, it was the pass that Matt Ryan threw to the sidelines. That was him that caught it. That little fella that looked like a kid catching the ball.
Jumped up behind the line. Yeah. I just think Hilliard, if you want to be creative, they do have, again, Chig and Hilliard are 2 pieces that you could be creative with. When Burks is back,
just not a jet sweep with Chig.
Just not a jet sweep, but either one of them, frankly. I am curious to see how much practice he gets, and I think that's going to be interesting to watch and see this week. So, what else you got here on the Titans offense?
I think for anything else that you guys want to hear on the Titans offense, because me and Mike are going to break down the game probably for a good 40 minutes today, talking about stuff and talking about various takes that we saw come out. So just football under the F words on Wednesday morning.
Keep talking while I chew.
And there's we also have the podcast and the YouTube. It will also be in video format. Now, we'll not have the Lizzo shirt on for the football under the F words because I record right after the show.
People are clamoring.
But
people are clamoring.
Thursday, Lizzo
on this show?
On
football show? Yeah. Okay. All right. Football and other efforts, of course. Make sure you check out all the great and wonderful and amazing sponsors for a football show. Please support them. We are here at the pharmacy drinking a Bearded Iris Pharmacy Pills, locally sourced by a local brewer at a local burger joint. Imagine that. Talking about a local team at a locally owned establishment since 2011. We got the Kingster Group and we got Weiss Liquors as well, so please make sure you check all of that out. I listen, I don't want to – it's very easy to be negative about this team and the direction they're going. Just the last word here for me, and you can have your own, is just 4 straight wins. A win is a win is a win in the NFL, so just enjoy the win. Worry about how bad the offense is next week, because for a couple of days here, you're clear ahead of the Colts in the division. You have commanding control of a division, which is a playoff spot. You've won 4 consecutive games. I think you can harp on the negative and understand that it's a real thing, and also celebrate your team winning a very, very, very ugly football game.
It was the best win of the season, easily. And so props to the Tennessee Titans for gutting out a win. The defense played great.
Cheers.
I think that is great to have and great to hang your hat on. The offense has its problems, but if you look around the league, almost every offense has a problem scoring. It's hurting my fantasy football team in particular, my league of record, not this one that we're in together for the 440 Sports. I'm dominating that one this weekend at least.
I would like to say that you're all welcome for showing up and sacrificing myself to all of you.
Yes.
That is the worst fantasy league I've ever been in. For me, it's the worst performance. I am the Todd Downing of our fantasy league.
But I will say this, Green Bay's suffering even with Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is still confident apparently that they're going to turn it around.
Yesterday's what they needed. Apparently.
Yeah. I mean, it's
the
bad
Niners,
around the league. The defensive schemes people are employing this year are the reason, combined with the offensive line play. So league scoring's down because these two things are perfectly meshing at the right time.
And a third of the league on their backup quarterback.
Yeah,
that's also a factor. I just think, again, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, the Niners, again, all these teams, not what they were supposed to be. You look at now the Chargers are dealing with major injuries. The Raiders aren't as good as they were supposed to be. The Broncos are garbage. Who had Seattle being what they are? This is a strange league, and strange things can happen when you have a trusted coach and a great defense. You could do a lot worse with Derrick Henry, a great defense, and a trusted coach.
Yep.
You could do some dangerous things with that. So just get to December in the hunt. That's all you got to do. All right, you want to take a look at some SEC football here?
Yeah.
Because LSU is now – this is great for Tennessee.
Right.
And for college football and for SEC fans for a number of reasons. It might not be good for Alabama fans. because Alabama's going to go to LSU. But what a win by LSU over Ole Miss. I've never seen like a 42-6 run.
Yeah.
They went on after going down early. Great defensive line showing, which would concern me if I'm an Alabama fan. Jaden Daniels, the quarterback at LSU, playing really good football, which would concern me if I'm an Alabama fan. LSU is now very much in the race, and they host the Crimson Tide. How nervous are we about this game coming up in 2 weeks?
I'm a little nervous, but we'll talk about that later. I mean, we got the show coming up, on Thursday to really dive into it. But I'm a little nervous because I want to talk about how this victory is just a win for UT in particular, because it makes their domination of LSU in the Bayou, in Death Valley, so much better. And to me, the biggest takeaway of the weekend, maybe the biggest takeaway, but I would say that UT's schedule, as far as their wins, are going to at the end of the year are going to look really good for a resume for UT when it comes to college football playoff time. They are literally the wielder of their own destiny at this point.
Yeah. And what's interesting is Tennessee fans got after me last week for suggesting you should use the ranking currently to evaluate your resume, not the ranking
which it only helps them, by the way.
Right. And they were yelling at me because they thought I was talking about them, which I was not. I was talking about Ohio State, actually. But Tennessee fans were like, well, why wouldn't we take credit for beating number 1 Alabama? I'm like, you can. There's no one saying you can't. The Pittsburgh is not as good. Pittsburgh is not as good as you thought they were in week 2. It's still a good win for Tennessee, but Pittsburgh has now lost like 3 games. Like, they're not very good. But LSU is now a top 15 team, and you can claim a dominating road win over a top 15 team because you use the current ranking, not the previous ranking. And LSU right now is a great win for Tennessee, and they're going to get even better. Ole Miss has no chance of beating Alabama. I don't think they have any prayer.
Well, we said make us believe. This was the make us believe game for LSU and Ole Miss, and LSU made us believe, right? I mean, did you walk away thinking, okay, that was a fluke loss for Ole Miss?
No,
it was a convincing win by LSU.
Yes, and the two things are going to make them dangerous against Alabama and moving forward, because LSU now still controls its own destiny and could get to Atlanta. But a great defensive line and a quarterback who is finding his comfort zone in an offense with great weapons. That's what LSU is, and they put it all on display against Ole Miss. Again, Alabama is pretty good. They took care of business against Mississippi State. The SEC is – I think there's going to be some losing happening. It's going to be super interesting, but LSU is clearly a factor now, and that is good news for Tennessee.
Yeah, and that's why, sure, beating UT Martin 65-24, yeah, that's great, whatever. No, that's okay.
I taught my kids how to say 50 burger at halftime.
There you go. But the biggest win for you this weekend is this victory.
Yeah, there's no question. And
you all should be sitting like gift baskets down to LSU at this point.
Hey, Brian Kelly.
Here's
some scented candles from Stony Keeley.
Yeah.
So I think Tennessee has the best resume in America.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think they're the best team in America, but they have a chance to marry those two things over the course of the next few weeks.
Yeah, because you got to beat Kentucky. You lose to Kentucky, you lose the faith of everybody that is supporting you right now, and including myself.
And then Georgia the following week. You have it right here in front of you. Now the other one to keep an eye on is that pesky road trip to South Carolina is getting a little bit more tricky.
Yeah,
trickier
Shane Beamer's kind of pulling stuff out of his ass to win these games.
Sunglasses, in fact, it's where he keeps them. I have to apologize to Shane Beamer. You have a chance to be bowl eligible in your first 2 seasons. I thought all the hype was overplayed. I didn't think you were going to be very good this year. I thought 4-8, 5-7. You already have 5 wins. You now have a win over a ranked Kentucky team on the road. I know Will Levis didn't play. Last year you beat Florida and Auburn. And now you have a win over Texas A&M. And A&M didn't even lead for a second in that game. So all credit to South Carolina. All credit to Shane Beamer. I apologize, sir. I had you wrong this year. That's on me. I think it takes a real man to say that.
I think it does. And
A&M sucks.
Well, yeah. And then that's, I guess, we'll go into this since we're talking about it. When do the bells toll for Jimbo? Like, what can they do to... Do you have faith that Jimbo could turn it around, or do you think it's just like it's going to get worse before it even gets better?
So I think it could get worse this year, but here's the glimmer of hope. You've injured all your quarterbacks. That's how all good hope starts.
Yes.
No, but
you have no quarterbacks. Here's your hope.
No, here's how it works. Your 5-star freshman that was never going to play this year, Connor Weigman, who got some time at the end of the game against South Carolina, is now it's his time. You have nothing to lose. You're 3-4. This is supposed to be a building year for A&M, where they were supposed to go from 7-5-ish, 8-4-ish team to they weren't expecting a playoff. They weren't expecting winning an SEC championship.
You don't think they were?
No, but they needed to show growth. They needed to show progress and building the program from middle of the pack to sort of on the outskirts of the championship conversation, so that next year when all those 5 stars are starting and upperclassmen, that they feel like this is a team that can compete for a national championship. And this year we've seen nothing but regression. So at this point, what else do you have to lose? Go to your 5-star true freshman quarterback, who was the gem of the recruiting class that everyone touted as the greatest of all time, and let him play through.
Definitely the most expensive.
Absolutely. Let him play through the last month of the season and see what you got. Because if he's just shows you glimmers of hope, he is clearly your starting quarterback coming back next year. And then I think you can, if you're Jimbo, you can say, look, we've got progression now. We've got a path at least. Otherwise,
it only took me kneecapping 4 quarterbacks, but I think we found it.
Just unbelievable. Like every single press conference is so frustrating. Every single press conference. Well, we've got the talent. We've got the players.
Well, then if that's the case, isn't it the coaching?
When is it your fault, Jimbo? Yeah. It's all your fault, buddy.
But isn't he basically saying it's his fault without saying it's his fault, or saying it's at least his staff's fault?
Kind of. Also, here's an undervalued part of this entire equation for A&M. Their defensive coordinator is at Duke. Duke's 5-2. Mike Elko is leading Duke to a potential bowl game in his first year. They just smoked Miami, a team that A&M barely beat. The loss of their defensive coordinator is also playing a factor in this as well. So A&M just not the team that they were in the preseason, and they're going to have to really prove it to people over the final month if they want to have some.
Can they get out of Jimbo's contract if there's a similar year next year? So after next year in 2024, can they get out of it?
It's all guaranteed money, so it's as much as you want to spend.
Whew.
$85 million guaranteed.
What a bunch of idiots.
There's not. You say that. There's not a more thirsty, because now Tennessee's good, right?
Yeah.
There's not a more thirsty fan base in all of college football than Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Clemson's got their championship rings. USC's back. Texas now feels like it's got their guys. Tennessee's in the top 5. Where's little old A&M at?
Yeah.
they're the one doing all the same things as those schools. They're nowhere to be found. Irrelevant. Losing record, 3-4.
All right,
Woof.
last one.
Woof.
Do you think I have my answer, but do you think Alabama had a get right game?
How are you defining it? I mean, yes. I expected that to happen. I had money on Alabama minus 21. Nick Saban was furious that they gave up points in the game, which means there are 3 games against Mike Leach so far in 3 years against each other at Alabama. I believe is 120-15.
Yes.
120-15. I guess is that get right, or is that just what you're supposed to do? Because Mississippi State's not bad.
I think for them they're the same thing, because they're supposed to do it, but they needed to actually do it, right? They needed to get right and actually do it, because they had such a terrible week after the UT loss, for their state of mind and everything. Do I have faith in Alabama versus LSU? Well, we'll get to that later. Do I have faith in Alabama?
I have faith in
the long
Alabama.
haul. We'll see. I mean, right now it's hard for me to have faith in this team, because I know that it's just not up to snuff compared to other Nick Saban Alabama teams.
Yeah.
It's probably maybe the second worst Nick Saban Alabama team.
2010.
I would say his first year, I would almost say would be
07
worse.
is his worst. 10 they lost, I think, 3 times. That was the Mark Ingram fumble and Cam Newton, the Cam back, as they call it. I think from a supporting cast standpoint around Bryce Young, around the quarterback, I think this is one of the least talented, explosive.
It's Jahmyr Gibbs, really, and Bryce Young, right?
Right. Like they normally have first-round pick at tackle, interior offensive line, tight end. Now, I do like Latu. I think Latu's a really good tight end. But he's not a first-round talent like O.J. Howard was or whatever. They just don't have the same pieces around the quarterback. But I think the quarterback's better than anything they've ever had at that position.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're still dangerous. And again, LSU and Bama, they both get a bye. Then they will come back and play each other in 2 weeks. So it's sort of like LSU take a breath, Alabama take a breath, and spend 2 weeks preparing for each other. In Baton Rouge, that game is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And I do say 2 weeks of preparation. Nick Saban with 2 weeks preparation is like Mike Vrabel with 2 weeks preparation. I lean very heavy that Nick Saban's going to come out and have some stuff corrected that he's seen be flaws that he couldn't fix during the season.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
I can't wait for the game.
Yeah.
I am far less concerned about the trip to Ole Miss, even though I wasn't really concerned about it. If I'm an Alabama fan. Auburn's always weird because it's Auburn, of course. But it's very possible that we have a Tennessee-Alabama rematch. It's still possible we have Alabama-Georgia. The Ole Miss trip to Atlanta now is pretty much out of it, but now LSU's a factor into this. So I think we learned a lot about college football around the country because, the Pac-12 last undefeated team lost to UCLA, so now that opens the door for a second SEC team. The Big Ten appears to be just Michigan and Ohio State, which could open up the door for another SEC team. And Syracuse losing to Clemson, it now looks like it's all Clemson, and that could open up the door for a second team. So as long as the rest of the country keeps losing, that's if you're a Tennessee fan or a Georgia fan or an Alabama fan, you think maybe we can get in.
Yeah.
Bama has to win out, but Georgia and Tennessee could still lose a game and in theory still get into the playoff as long as everyone around the country keeps losing. Gotcha. So that's a good week. It was a good weekend for Tennessee, not just with LSU, but around the country as well.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I
think that's about it.
That is it.
Live at the pharmacy, man. Look at all these awesome people. Look at all these great folks.
They're everywhere
hanging out here.
Oh, there's Delaney Walker.
Former Titans hanging out here. Yeah. Former Titans hanging out. This is why you come to pharmacy, of course, here in East Nashville at McFerrin Avenue, of course, the Burger, Parlor, and Beer Garden. Beautiful people, beautiful day. Victory Monday, 5 consecutive here. We'll be back on Thursday, of course, live at 1 p.m. A football show here brought to you by the Pharmacy, Kingston Group, and Weiss Liquors, 3 locally owned businesses. Just support local business, folks. Yeah. It's really not that hard to do. Support your local businesses. Pharmacy, Weiss Liquors, Kingston Group, Zach Lyons, Braden Gall. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. This has been a football show.